Chapter 26. Nate. I stare at my phone. It stares back at me silently. I'd been waiting for it to ring for hours, and then for the last 40 minutes, I've been sat, simply watching the blank screen. After my date with Annie, I spent hours floating around like I was walking on air. Finally, London seemed a bit brighter. I started being able to see the London that I had watched on TV all those years. I saw the smiling people, the couples kissing, the Christmas lights twinkling. I even laughed when a red bus skirted past me and splattered rainwater up my legs. I loved it here. Tid never had a feeling like this in New York. I don't know if I've experienced this feeling in my entire life. The morning after our date, I woke up to find Stevie knocking at my door with a paper cup of coffee. For the first time since I'd moved in, he was here to wake me up and help nurse my hangover. He perched on the end of my bed and made me recount all the details about the date, who Batgirl really was, and how things were left. When I told him I got her number, he insisted that I had to wait 2 days to message her. Apparently, that was the unwritten rule of dating. Londoners, any earlier and I'd give her the ick. If I hadn't given her the ick by my dancing, he added unnecessarily. Needless to say, I wanted to message her right away. Wanted to knock on her door and take her out for break fast. Ask her where else weird and wonderful she could take me in London, what other stories she had, what other costumes she was planning to make. I wanted to know absolutely everything about her. But I took Stevie's advice. He knew much more about dating than I did. As he had far more experience, I came back with that one, which, annoyingly, he took as a compliment. I spent 2 solid days in my bubble. Work didn't even feel that bad. Hell, I laughed when Brian showed me the new batch of people who had written in for the Miss Cinderella story. I told him I'd been on a date with Jane, which seemed to be dull enough to satisfy his appetite for gossip, and let him decide that perhaps I was better writing about the latest exhibitions in the London museums, which was fine by me. I thought maybe I could take Annie with me. I hopped, skipped, and jumped around London. I felt 10 pounds lighter, and then I woke up this morning to one singular word on my phone, and it was enough to make my blood turn help. It was from Mom. She sent it at 4 in the morning, which would have been late at night for them. I called her as soon as I saw it, but she didn't answer. Then I called Dad. He didn't answer either. The sensible part of my brain tried to tell me that it was late for them. The reason they weren't answering was because they were sound asleep, tucked up in their pine bed and floral bed covers. But the ugly, irrational side of my brain sucked the silence of the morning up like gasoline. Maybe they aren't answering because something has happened. It's too late now. If you'd answered at the time, then you could have been there. If you hadn't left New York, then you could check on them. You could even have been with Mom when she messaged. But you're not. You're here, and something has happened to her, and now nobody is speaking to you. It's been swirling around my body for the past 6 hours, ripping every part of joy out of me and extinguishing every spark that had been flickering for the past 2 days. All that's left in me is cold, dark fear. I messaged Brian to say that I needed to work from home, and I've just sat staring out of the window ever since. I messaged Annie too. Weak. Hey, sorry, I've got a lot going on right now. Have a good. It's hardly the message I'd wanted to send, but I didn't want to leave her in silence, and I didn't know what else to say. They haven't told Stevie. He left to go to a gig before I'd gotten up, and there is no point worrying him. I'll tell him once I know what's going on. Once Mom calls me, if she ever calls me. I leaned my head against the back of the lumpy sofa. I tried going on a walk earlier to take my mind off it all, but all it did was make me constantly worry that my phone may lose signal or ring without me hearing it, and I'd miss another message. Why would she be asking for my help? She should be at home with Dad, safe. What could possibly be wrong? Almost jump out of my skin when my phone vibrates. I snatch it from the coffee table and deflate as I see Stevie's name on the screen. Hey man. I told myself that I wasn't going to tell Stevie about the message until I knew what was going on. But the more time that has passed, the more scared I've become. This was my plan based on the idea that Mom or Dad would call as soon as they woke up. But what if something worse has happened? What if they aren't able to call me, and we don't hear from them for days, or not at all? The thought of it makes me feel sick. Listen, I say, interrupting Stevie as he starts chatting about his journey up to Sheffield. I've got to talk to you quickly. I'm sure it's fine, but I got a weird message from Mom this morning. Stevie is silent down the phone for a moment, and I can hear my heart thudding in my ears. What does that mean? He says eventually. Well, nothing, I hear myself say. I'm sure it's all fine. Know anything? Why am I saying this? I don't know if it's fine. I don't. Bowing on. For fuck's sake, Nate, Stevie snaps. Just tell me what's... She messaged me in the middle of the night. Saying what? Saying help? I force myself to say it, even though it's enough to make me want to throw up. It sounds so much worse when I say it out loud. Help, Stevie repeats. What do you mean? I don't know, I say, running my fingers through my hair. That's literally all it said. But I'm sure everything is fine. Stop saying that. I flinch as he shouts down the phone. You can't possibly know that everything's fine. Don't Patronus me. Well, I don't know what to do, I exclaim, a bolt of rage piercing through me. Does he have any idea how much I wish it was someone calling to tell me that they're sure everything is going to be okay, instead of it being me? Why does it always have to be me? Have you spoken to her or Dad? Of course not, I say, failing to hide the anger in my voice. I'd tell you if I knew more, wouldn't I? Well, try and call them, then. What do you think I've been doing all day? I shout, getting to my feet and throwing my arm in the air. I wince as my wrist knocks the lampshade and glass splinters around my fist. I take a deep breath as the pain slices through my hand. Look, I start again. Team telling you all I know. As soon as I hear something I will call you, I promise. But the line has gone dead. Stevie has hung up. I chuck the phone onto the sofa and storm into the kitchen, grabbing sheets of kitchen roll to wrap around my hand. Specks of dark blood swell through the white squares. And I curse, sucking the cut as I rifle through Stevie's cupboard. Of course, he doesn't have a first aid kit or anything mildly similar to one. He's a child. He's a child who's been hiding in London for the past 10 years with his head in the sand, ignoring everything that's going on around him. His family, his responsibilities, they've all been things I've had to pick up. I wince as blood seeps through the paper towel and feel a dart of panic. Shit. I think I've really cut myself. I'm about to run my hand under the tap when I hear the faint jingle of my ringtone. I dash into the living room and snatch up my phone, answering it before I've even clocked who's calling. Hello, you all right? I recognize the relaxed rhythm of Remy's voice instantly, and before I can compose myself, I hear myself blurt, Remy, do you know where the nearest hospital is? Here you are, lad. I glance up as Remy hands me a polystyrene cup. I hold it with my free arm, my other still held aloft, as instructed by the frazzled nurse who bandaged me up and told me to stay put until she got back. That was about 30 minutes, thanks, I say. Sorry. Stop apologizing. Remy hadn't asked why I needed to 80 to hospital. He just wanted to know where I was. Then 20 minutes later showed up in his black cab and told me to get in. He only asked me 2 questions. If I was okay, and if I'd been in a fight. I heard myself answer no to both of them, before hurriedly adding that I was fine really, and that I was probably overreacting. I said this while I had an entire roll of kitchen roll on my lap, which was thinning out by the minute as it sucked up my blood like a thirsty sponge. I jump as my phone vibrates next to me. I grab it, only to see a pointless email from Deliveroo. It makes me so angry that I almost launch my phone across the room. Remy catches my expression and raises an eyebrow. Are you sure you're all right? Yes, I'm fine. He looks pointedly down at my phone. What's that about then? What's what? Who are you waiting to hear from? You're not wound up about that girl, are you? In the middle of my desperate worry about my mom, my anger that they still haven't called me back, even though they will have been awake for hours, my embarrassment at having to call Remy for help, and my slight self-pity for my slashed hand, I feel a spark of excitement as Annie's face pops into my head. That girl, I echo. The one from the speed dating. The one you left with. I shake my head and wiggle my fingers as pins and needles creep over them like tiny, prickly spiders. Remy takes a sip of his coffee. She seemed nice. I spate the twinkle in his eye and can't help but smile. What's your story then, Remy? I ask. Why are you spending your weekends hanging out with me? Do you have someone at home? Remy shakes his head. Oh no, not me. I'll bet you know all the tricks. He smiles, his lips pressed together. I know a few. Well then, what? Are you dating someone? What's going on? He gives me a look and places his coffee on the floor. Nothing, mate. Why not? He shrugs coyly. Who knows, eh? Ignite my brow when an idea pops into my head. Do you like theater? He frowns at me. Theater? I've got tickets to a show if you want to come. My aunt is in it. She's the one I'm trying to get to visit my mom. I thought going to see her in her show might get me in her 500D books. He smirks and then cocks his head. Sure, why not? He leans his elbows on his knees and looks straight ahead. We drift into silence. I'm waiting for a call from my mom, I say eventually, feeling too tired to try and cover it all up with a fake smile and a lame story. I got a weird message from her last night. Haven't been able to get hold of her since. He glances up at me. I'm sorry to hear that, Nate. I'm about to make a light comment about how it isn't so bad, but I can't bring myself to do it, Nathaniel Simpson. I look up as the nurse reappears and gestures for me to follow her. Want me to hold your hand? Remy grins. I give him a shove on the shoulder as I get to my feet. I think I'll be okay. You can go home, though, I add. You don't have to wait for me. He picks up his coffee and nods his head. I'll be here. Nate, don't worry about it. The nurse spent 20 minutes threading tiny stitches through the cut on the palm of my hand. The needle pierced both sides of flesh and weaved them back together, and it all felt so small and minor that I felt pathetic for wanting to cry out in pain. As good as his word, Remy was still waiting on the plastic chair where I left him when I came out with my newly bandaged hand. We climbed into his cab and he drove me back to the flat. I tried to offer him some money, but he just said that I could buy him a pint next time we were both at the pub. I said I'd buy him two, and an ice cream at the theater. He laughed at that. I've been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling and feeling completely tormented for the past few hours. When I got out of the hospital, I was convinced I'd have a message from Mom that had somehow gotten lost within the poor signal of the building. But there was nothing there. It took all my strength not to lose my mind. Annie hasn't messaged back either, but I can see that she's read it. I want to message her again. But I'm so exhausted from the past 12 hours that I feel like my brain isn't working properly. I can't think of what I'd say. And we had such a great time on Saturday. It was so fun and free. I don't want to burden her with all of my bullshit. She was my escape from it all. I heard Stevie get in about an hour ago and go straight to his bedroom. Even though he'll assume I was asleep, I thought he might come and wake me up to see if I'd heard anything. I'm sort of glad he didn't. I don't think I could bear to tell him that not only had I not heard anything at all, but as time went on, I was rapidly losing faith that it would all be okay, like I promised, because he was right. How would Ick know? I roll onto my back and close my eyes. I force myself to focus on my breathing, the only thing I feel like I can control right now. In, out, in, out, in, out, in. I jump up as the phone vibrates next to me and I finally see Mom's name flash up on the screen. Mom, I cry, pressing the phone to my ear. Mom, are you okay? As soon as I speak, Remy comes running in my room, wide-eyed. He'd obviously heard my phone through our paper-thin walls. I switch the phone to loudspeaker. I'm fine. Glances at my hand in confusion and I shake my head. Mouth. Oh, Mom's voice spills through into our deathly silent room. Hello, love. Stevie hovers at the doorway. My heart climbs into my throat. She sounds okay. She sounds like Mom. Are you okay? I say. I got your message yesterday, but I was asleep. I've been trying to get hold of you and Dad all day. Phone makes a scuffling sound as Mom walks through the house. Oh yes, I'm fine, she says. How are you? I make the mistake of looking up at Stevie. He looks murderous. Fine, I say carefully. Mom, you texted me saying help yesterday. Are you all right? Did I? Mom says. I don't think I did. My heart sinks. She doesn't remember. Stevie storms out of the room, throwing his arms in the air. I wince as I hear his bedroom door slam. Yeah, I say, leaning back onto my bed as a wave of exhaustion hits me. You did. Oh, Mom says after a pause, and then she laughs lightly. That must have been a mistake. How are you, sweetie? How's Stevie? I place a hand over my face as a cold mixture of fear, relief, and panic begins to take a hold of my body. I inhale deeply. How was your day?